We're live. I see it.
I see it.
Woohoo!
I see it all.
Awesome.
Don't know what happened with that.
Good job.
All right. I'm going back to
Well
mute
done.
now. Sorry for the interruption. I hope it saved us some hassle later.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. If you've heard a little bit of that, you realize we had some technical difficulties. My name is Christine Craycroft. I'm the Executive Director of the Portage Park District. This is the September 28th, 2020 Board of Park District Commissioners regular monthly meeting. And I'll turn it over to our President, Commissioner Tom Hurdy. Tom, you're muted.
Hang on.
Tom, did you mute yourself, X? There you go.
No, I was trying to unmute. I finally unmuted. Anyhow, I would
Thank you.
like to call the meeting to order at 5:56 of the Portage Park District Commissioners regular meeting for September 28th, 2020. Can I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hurdy,
Here.
Commissioner Engelhardt,
Here.
Commissioner McKinney,
Here.
Commissioner Orshan.
Here.
Okay, has there been any public comment received that needs to be?
We did not receive any.
Okay, great. Has everyone looked at the minutes from August 24th, 2020 regular meeting? And if so, are there any corrections or needed changes?
I've reviewed and moved that we pass the minutes. This is Scott.
This is Chuck. I will second.
Great. Scott made the approved and Chuck second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hurdy,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes,
Commissioner Orshan.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to discuss, or Chris, if you could discuss the financial statement for August 2020 and also the year-to-date budget report and cash balance reports. And again, as anybody have the commissioners looked at it, and if there are any questions, please bring them forward.
Hey, thanks. Well, the most significant change this month is that we received the bulk of the rest of our levy funds. This goes through August, the end of August, and since then we've received one more installment from, I think, Manufactured Homes. So we've exceeded by a few $1,000s our initial estimate for the tax levy resources. The next big revenue that we need to be looking at getting in is this advance in line. This line was originally estimated to be $1.1 million. If you'll recall that when we go to cash flow our grant projects, we cash advance out sometimes money into the capital funds where the project is done. And then when the grant is received, we reimburse the general fund for the amount that was cash advanced. The only thing with that is that we got to keep in mind that our grants are based on budgets and projects change over time. And, you know, those are only estimates that we budget from. So sometimes the amount that we are able to return is not the full amount that we advanced. And in fact, that's going to be the case for this year. If we've got a number of different advances out, you'll see later in the agenda that we are going to return some of those advances if you pass that resolution today. And then I'm expecting I'll be submitting for another reimbursement, a large reimbursement for our Tinkers Creek project here soon. So so that's why we haven't gotten any of that. We'll, you know, next month we'll show that we will have received some of those advances if you pass that this month.
Chris, this is Chuck. Are you sharing your screen at this time? I'm not able to locate it. So
I am sharing it. Is anybody else seeing it?
all I see are the participants, and I'm trying to scroll through the.
yeah, I don't see it at all.
Yeah, so I'm absent that, just so you're aware.
I can't see it.
Neither can I to make a quorum.
Thank you for telling me. Appreciate that. How about that?
Now
Good.
it's there. Thank you. Yes.
I don't have any
Okay, any other
visuals.
things?
If there are no questions in regards to the year-to-date and also the monthly budgets, do I have a motion to approve?
So this is Chuck. I'll approve I think it's month to date, year to date for I can't see it on the screen now.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It's for August, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, for August of 2020. Thank you.
And do we have a second?
This is Scott. I'll second.
Great. We have Chuck made the motion and Scott second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes,
Commissioner Roshan.
Yes,
Thank you.
Next, we have the executive director's update.
Let's see, the main things are we're moving ahead with our due diligence for the Eagle Creek Greenway project and our information today. It's nothing for action for you, but the template for the conservation easement with West Reserve Land Conservancy that is going to go on the property. At a previous meeting, you all had already approved the agreement, our donation agreement of the easement to Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and that came along with, I believe it was a $7,500 stewardship endowment fee. We went down that road because we get an extra couple of points in our grant application scoring if we work with a third party for a conservation easement. So, it enhanced our potential to get the grants, which we did. And, West Reserve Land Conservancy acts as a third party sort of watchdog on the conservation values on the property. So it's not tying our hands any more than the state restrictions did. But there are extra eyes on the property, and they do already hold an easement on the adjacent Hiram College property along Eagle Creek. So there's that. We're also putting the final touches on the operations center. We're ready to close out that contract. We're also getting close to closing out the contract on the Trail Lake parking lot. The trailhead and trails contract is well underway. The first course of asphalt's been placed. As you'll see on the agenda and in the resolutions we've offered, we've got 3 proposed change orders that really had to deal with conditions that were apparent after we started the project. We had some grading changes to deal with some potential erosion and with the water runoff from the ag fields. We changed the layout of the concrete trailhead, the footprint of that. And then just most recently today, Craig and I met with our engineer and the contractors and looked at some issues that came up with, that were revealed with the asphalt paving, the first course of asphalt paving. So there's going to have to be some cut and then excavation and replacement of materials and additional materials in order to get a good solid trailer. So we can talk more about that later if you want, and Craig can chime in on that. But what's interesting is that even with those changes and with the other items outside of that contract, the fishing pier and the kayak launch, we are within still our line item budget for Trail Lake Trailhead and Trails. We had budgeted 800,000 in that line, and with these changes, it gets us close to 799. So we do have the funds for it already allocated. Big event was the annual Portage County Environmental Conservation Awards event. It was virtual this year. Had some great awardees, including Jane and George Rose, who received a Lifetime Achievement Award. The foundation had produced a video of the awardees, and then the Park District, with Andrea doing most of the heavy lifting on the editing and everything, put together a video of Park District updates. So if you haven't seen that yet, I suggest you take a look at it. It's all online on our YouTube channel, I believe, right, Andrea?
Yep, it's on the YouTube channel and it'll go out in this Thursday's newsletter. There'll be a link in there too, if they want to do it that way.
So yeah, we had a lot of great feedback from the folks that were there on the event. It was done through Zoom.
Chris,
And,
this is Scott.
yes.
It was fantastic. Very nicely done. Congratulations to everyone for pivoting and doing just an amazing job.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it was a real group effort. Yeah, we'll have to consider some version of this, for the future too. It was nice to be able to work on the presentation ahead of time. Get a lot of different voices involved with that.
Well, this is Tom, and I know Andrea had some difficult characters to deal with, but she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, thanks, Tom and Chuck, for your contributions too.
Yeah.
We were on a tight deadline there towards the end. Everything was coming fast and furious. So I know Scott submitted something, but we didn't get a chance to work that in. Other big news, we promoted Lindsay Leitner and Emmett Roberts to permanent part-time natural area specialists. So they're going to be great hands. And, we work as a team a lot of times. So I know Craig and Bob coordinate, and where we need extra hands, they're able to pitch in on some of the maintenance work as well. So I think it's going to be a great thing going forward to have them around year round. All right.
good.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
This is Chuck. Chris, you have in there, I think under item C under you, has to do with no proposals for that criterion engineer. What's our status, or what's our next plan, next effort for that?
Yeah, I reached out to a few of the consultants that we sent to that, work in that realm. And I need to follow up with phone conversations. I just had messages at this point. But I think the long and the short of it is that those that have the experience and expertise to be able to oversee a design build project want the actual contract.
Okay.
And, they're maybe holding back in anticipation of the RFP for the design build contract coming out versus, being precluded from bidding on that if they are the criteria engineer. So I'm gonna talk with them and, see what other options we have, and maybe there's somebody that we haven't reached out to yet that would be interested. So I guess for now, that's just going to be tabled again. I don't have any new proposals this month.
Okay, thank you.
Just something you might be interested in also for the in acknowledgement of the contribution that the Park District Foundation is making for the kayak launch, the handicapped accessible kayak launch. They're earmarking some funds that Helen Gregory had donated to them. So we all agreed that would be a fitting place to invest those funds. I drafted a plaque, because that was one of the things that they wanted some of their funds to go towards. This is what we've got as the proof for it.
Chris, this is Scott. Fantastic. I'm so glad that we're recognizing her this way. She was such an advocate for the Park District and single-handedly started our outreach efforts for the mailing that we did for the foundation when we started it off. Great expertise, great love for the environment, and absolutely she deserves the recognition.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Wonderful, bright spirit.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to find just the right stone to put it on there. We have unearthed some rocks out there at Trail Lake that might be good candidates. So, and we're thinking of, this is a 9-inch by 9-inch cast bronze plaque. And we'll attach it to a fitting stone and then place it somewhere near the fishing pier launch area. It might be, everything's backed up with COVID and for a variety of reasons. So they said that our lead time with this might be 8 weeks. So we might not have it there by the time the park opens, but we'll get it in as soon as possible.
Chris, may I ask what something like this costs to have this done?
This is about just shy of $1,000.
Okay. Just curious. I mean, well deserved. I'm not questioning why we're doing it. I just was curious. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And then the contribution that she made pretty much equaled out, including this with the cost of the actual kayak launch. So that was about $30,000.
Very good.
Okay, any other
Thanks.
questions?
Well, it looks like in regards to our agenda that number 6 was other information. We kind of covered that, and also the business. Is that true? Should we move on?
Yes, yeah. I don't think we, unless you have any questions on that.
I don't. So the first under new business is the resolution to approve the August 2020 expenditures. Can everyone see that and review that? Are there any questions?
Nope.
If
This
not,
is- Yeah, this is Chuck. I have no questions. I'll move to approve the August of 2020
great.
expenditures.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Alan.
Okay, great. We have Chuck making the motion and Alan seconding the motion. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Orashan,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, in regards to Resolution 220 cash advance returns to general fund, Chris, is there any explanation you want to give in regards to these changes?
So yeah, this sort of follows up on my comments earlier with the budget. You can see these cash advances go back to 2017, and they took place in the Tinkers Creek Greenway Fund, the Headwaters Trail Fund, the Kent Bog Expansion Fund, the Morgan Park Fund. Basically, again, to provide cash flow for our grants. And so long and the short of it is, if, for example, the Tinkers Creek Greenway Fund, if we advanced out $450,000, thinking that maybe we were going to get a grant reimbursement of $450,000, so that once that grant reimbursement came back, we could repay the general fund. That if we get full reimbursement, that's great. And we return the entire amount back, because we always have to do the project first and then get reimbursement after the fact. If the project changed and we don't get the full grant amount for whatever reason, maybe we only got 430,000, then we could only return 430,000, and then we would reclassify that 20,000 that stayed in that fund permanently. We reclassify that as a cash transfer. So you can see I did that down in the resolved section there under number 3. So we had originally intended to advance. We did advance 295,000. However, we only have 61,497 available to return for that grant at that time. And if you'll recall, I believe this was in regards to the resurfacing. It was the resurfacing of the Headwaters Trail. And we always knew that we didn't, that the project was larger than the grant we had available to us. So the difference between 295 and 61,497 is 233,503. And that amount is going to be considered a cash transfer for accounting purposes. So this gets the bulk of this. Like I said, after we get our reimbursement from the Tinkers Creek Greenway 2 project, we'll have more to return to the general fund.
Does anybody have any questions in regards to these transfers?
Nope.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve Resolution 220, cash advance returns to the general fund?
This
Move
is
to
Chuck.
approve. This is Alan.
Alan moves.
This is Chuck. I'll second.
Thank you.
Alan made the motion and Chuck second. Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Roshan,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Again, next resolution, Resolution 220, authorizing the change order number 6 for the Morgan Operations Center construction contract. It looks like we're finishing up and tying things up on that.
Yeah, this was an expense that was just missed by our architect earlier as far as the change order goes. We never got a change order to approve for it before, and it's for a furnace circuit. I don't know, Craig, if you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, during the inspections, the inspectors required an additional circuit switch, essentially a fused circuit for one of the furnace units. They required a separate switch instead of a combined switch. And so that's what this is for.
This is Chuck. I'll move to approve the change order for the Morgan Park Operations Center.
This is Scott. I'll second.
Okay, we have authorization motion made by Chuck, second by Scott in regards to change order in regards to the Morgan Operations Center. Do I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Roshan,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next resolution up, and I know there's more information you have on this in regards to what it looks like with the changes due to the grading and the water. Is that something that we should look at before we approve this resolution, just so we maybe?
Sure.
And
Yeah,
again,
let me,
not to beat the proverbial horse, but my thought is if we could look at that real quick, and then we could kind of see what we're paying for.
sure. So we now have 3 change orders. As you know, the packet included only 2, but as I mentioned, Craig and I met out there with the contractors and our engineer today and came to an agreement on a 3rd change order. So this is change order number 1 for an additional $62,643. let's see here. These are the, this is the backup detail that goes with that. Essentially, it was just a lot more grading and earthwork than was originally planned, indicated on the plans and what they bid for. And, you know, I think there were a few things that were missed during the engineering design phase of it. But then, you know, there were some changes in the field that were also made. Craig, do you want to add anything to that by explanation?
Yeah, I don't see the number. Okay, I see change order number 1. And yeah, you're exactly right. There was more earthwork in that the contractors brought to our attention. I don't have the details on that, but there was a lot between the engineer and the surveyor. The amounts were just much higher than what they had anticipated. So that was their unit price for that work.
And Chris, this is Chuck. I mean, is there any recourse that we have with some of the other folks we've paid for doing some of the preliminary work that's gotten us to this point or not?
You know, I think we should have that discussion. You know, we've been working with the contractors. I think we've come to a good place with the contractors for the adjustments that have been made in the field. There was a change in alignment, so that's the screen here that's shown. The change in alignment also, you know, resulted in some additional grading changes. But, you know, it was the right call to make.
Why was the alignment change made? Just out of curiosity.
Why was that change made right there? That was
Not as steep a slope. I can kind of see that by the topo, but I mean, was the original
yeah, Craig,
proposal?
Yeah,
Craig, help
yeah,
me
that-
out here.
we
got
changed
some-
where that trail came back in to join that natural trail. It was a more, I don't want to say a more willing area. I think, although you had to move more dirt, I think you had more room to make that turn and to make that intersection than the original design of that trail. We just agreed that was a more allowing, a more an area that just really lended itself to that better. Again, you can see by the topo lines that there was quite a bit of work there, and some of that additional work we're talking about was to push that further away from the trail for erosion purposes.
Yeah.
But it really lent itself into that intersection much better than where the engineer had originally tried to bring it back through the trees.
And that was, sorry, Craig, I didn't mean to interrupt. That was also another consideration. You can see by the topo there, all of the tree clearing that would have had to have happened to go through the original alignment that was X'd out. And that got us into another issue with clearance with the Indiana Bat through the Fish and Wildlife Service and the amount of trees we could take down at any time. So, you know, I think the end result is a good trail, and we were able to maintain ADA accessibility throughout. So it was a little bit of a trade-off, but I think we had a better end product.
Yeah, and I'm good. I would rather have the better end product person. I just want to, I guess as we're new at this, see if there's any learning things to take away or take away as far as what we should be doing differently, or how can we hold maybe other agencies we're paying for doing some of this preliminary work accountable for some things we may have to make adjustment wise that
Correct.
could have been avoided up front. So it's more of that. That's where my line of question is coming more from that perspective.
No, I would agree that, you know, this has been a great learning experience, and, you know, we have some ideas about ways to approach things differently in the future. So.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I have a question. When you and I walked the property and we observed what we thought was excess grading, I don't know if that's what's pictured in the the photos that were sent. How was that addressed? And
You know, Alan, I think what we were looking at when we were walking that, that came after a rain. And that was it was pretty heavy rain that had happened prior to that. And it, on that newly graded soil, it turned into a big mucky, soupy mess. And for the guys to get back, to be able to continue construction, they had to remove a lot of that, mud, scoop that out, and they replaced it with some dry fill that they had stockpiled in a different area. So I think we got in there at that point between that, after they had taken out the mud, but before they replaced it with the dry fill and compacted it again.
okay.
Yeah, so they did make up some of that depth with just fill and not stone. But that is something we're going to be talking about with this change order 3, is that we do have to go back in a section and cut down deeper and really get down and replace it with and Craig will help me remember, I think it's 12
Sure.
inches of 1s and 2s and another 6 inches or more of 304 on top of that. And so it's going to really give us a much better base in that section that had been dealing with, there was apparently some seeps or maybe little springs that were popping up in there. So this is, that was from change order 1, and he's got all of the differences here on it. Let's see, change order 2. This is where we looked at the concrete trailhead. We changed the layout area so the square footage was increased. We did reduce the profile some, but so you can see on this one, we've got, that's the 62,000 is the first change order. Then they added, basically it was a substitution for the concrete unit. They added 49,875 and then deducted 45,325. So the net increase was a little over $4,000, $4,500 or so for the concrete. So that's pretty much this second change order is for the concrete. And then the third. So this is our layout now for the concrete. It comes here and like this. This is our restroom, our kiosk, which is being constructed right now. Earlier, we had a smaller semicircle layout, and this I think just lends itself better to traffic flow and siting for the restroom. And then, so this is restroom again, kiosk, bench, table, just kind of gives you an idea. These lines here are going to be animal tracks of different species that are going to stamp into it. It'll be a permanent educational display there in the concrete. And then
Looks really good, Chris. I'm really impressed with it.
Yep.
great. And then change order 3. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay. So on this one, we've got deductions. Again, we had this extra work that had to be done with the additional stone and the excavation. But we were able to work with the contractor to deduct for some work that they were not going to perform. So they were able to get by without most of the work for the temporary access drive. So that was a deduction. And then since we want to use our own specified seed mix with some native plants, native grasses and wildflowers, we had them, deduct the cost of the seed, and we're just going to apply the seed ourselves. So they took off the cost of the seed and application. So they'll get it ready for prepping, but our guys will actually seed it with our own purchased seeds. So they deducted from that.
And I guess my question, Chris, can we kind of go back to the resolutions now that we see actually what we're actually doing and move forward?
Sure.
So it looks like resolution 220 is up, authorizing the change orders for the Trail Lake Park. And Chris has just gone through that. If anyone has any questions, and if not, if I could get a motion, please.
This is Scott. I'll move.
Scott's moved. Do we have a second?
This is Alan, I'll second it.
Great. Scott moved and Alan second. Can we have a roll call vote for the authorization, the changes, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Orsham,
Yes,
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Is there any other new business, Chris, or should we leave regular session, go to executive session?
That's it for open park business right now. And if you would entertain a motion for
Right.
that reason down below for land acquisition.
Right. I would like to leave the regular session to go to executive session to consider the purchase of property and the sale of property, either real or personal by competitive bid, if disclosure of the information will give a competitive advantage to the other side. So if we could go to executive session to discuss the property and sale of property.
This
okay,
is
move to go
Chuck.
into executive session. This is Alan.
And this is Chuck. I'll second.
We have a vote. We have Alan making the movement and Chuck making this second.
All right. Shall I roll call?
Roll-
Yeah,
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Orsham,
yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy.
Yes,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now, so I'm stopping our live stream while we go into executive session.